I want to thank you all so much for being here with us for today's Iowan session, for being with us on a Monday afternoon. I know that right now at the end of April, everybody's schedules are crazy. And so for you to take the time to be here with us today means a lot to our group. We have a couple wonderful presenters today. So before I get into things, I want to keep us all able to see everybody's faces. And I'll quickly introduce myself and then have the rest of our presenters introduce themselves before we go into the rest of today's session. But my name is Dania Ibrahim. I'm an innovation manager at the Education Systems Center at Northern Illinois University. And I'm joined here today by Dorletta Payton, Todd Stern, Krista Paul, Jennifer Irvin, Erica Kuba, Emily Wan, and Heather Penjack, who I'm going to give a moment to introduce themselves as well.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Krista Paul. I'm a veteran educator in High School District 214 in the Northwest suburbs. And I've been grateful to be involved in this work, like experiential education, for the last 15 plus years. I'm also our current State of Illinois, our Work-Based Learning Division president, and this is a division within Illinois Association for Career and Technical Education. So excited to be here with you today. Thank you.
Awesome.
Good morning. Oh, sorry. Dorletta Payton. I work at the Valley View School District in Romeoville, Illinois, as the Director of College and Career Readiness. And I've been here for 11 years. And it has really been a very positive experience to be a part of this advisory team.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Todd Stern. I work as the Work-Based Learning Specialist for Region 110 with Terry Stroh, and really excited about the work that we're doing and the work that this committee did on work-based learning, especially career exploration.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Jennifer Irvin. I'm with BJC Healthcare, and I get to oversee the work of our organization and partnering with school districts to implement these great programs and allow students opportunities. So my official role is School Community Education Partner.
Hello, good morning. My name is Erica Kuba. I am the current career coordinator for Des Plaines Valley region. We have 6 districts within our region and 9 high schools. I wear a few hats, as most of us in here do. So one of the things I oversee our college and career pathway endorsements. And I also am working on putting a work-based learning program together for our region. And I currently oversee the pilot cohort for criminal justice for work-based learning.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Wan, and I'm currently a high school senior at Barrington High School, District 220. And I've also been working as a high school intern at EdSystems along with Danya and Heather since last summer. And I'm very excited to be here, share some student insights, and just be in this awesome collaborative environment.
And hi, everyone. Really excited for this day. It's been months in the making, and this wonderful advisory committee here to share with you. I'm Heather Penjack, Director of Innovation Implementation at EdSystems. And just, again, thank you all for being here. And we look forward to your feedback and insights and questions on all this amazing work.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. These folks will have lots of other time to share their insights and their role in this work throughout the presentation, which I'm personally excited to get to. So let me go ahead and do a little screen share over here. Today we'll be talking about the new resource that we've created on scaling work-based learning, quality criteria for continuous improvement and equity. A little agenda for today. After our introductions that we've just done, I will have Heather go through an overview of our work generally at EdSystems. I will give an overview about this work specifically for the resource. Emily will share a little bit about her role in this work as a co-author of this resource. And then our wonderful advisory members who've just introduced themselves will be sharing high quality criteria and insights across the work-based learning continuum and some thoughts about systems and processes as well. And then we'll talk a little bit about the public comment process that we're opening up and leave some room for reflections and feedback at the end. So moving along right here to Heather.
Hi again. So at EdSystems, our mission here is really shaping and strengthening education and workforce systems to advance racial equity, prepare more learners for productive careers and lives in a global economy, And that's, no small feat, no small mission, right? And this is just one component part of that. And so when we look at our focus areas, we think about bridges to post-secondary. So students being ready to be at that college level courses when they move into post-secondary. So transitional math and English, as many of you are familiar with that. We also work very much within college and career pathways. This work is going to be a key kind of piece of that, where we're really digging in on work-based learning and what that looks like, what that can mean, how that can really look as we think about equity and continuous improvement in that to support a really robust college and career pathway experience for a learner. But we also very much engage in data impact and leadership, helping communities look at data, think about data, and how do we also look at data and put out data. We have a really wonderful Illinois Success Network, which has a very cool data dashboard that they can lean on and engage in within their communities. And we really are both statewide and at the community level. So we have, I've seen some agency partners on here, which is always wonderful to see. They've been a key critical part of this work, but also many community members on here too, doing this all at just one level or the other, right? We're really making sure that we're having conversations within both settings to really get to what is at the heart of all of this. And so when we think about professional learning, work-based learning, a lot of this is really centered within our college and career pathway endorsement framework. So when we have the definitions and the continuum that we have throughout this high quality criteria document, we are thinking about these expectations within that green professional learning box here about your 2 career explorations, your 2 team-based challenges, so 60 cumulative hours of a career development experience. We have another committee for the high quality criteria that looked at the whole kind of component parts of this, a pathways advisory committee that worked across the state and within community members. They have a recording and their own public comment process, which we can put in the chat and share with you as well as a follow-up. But we are looking at one of these really strong frameworks and thinking about the expectations for what it means for schools to complete and have these component parts of professional learning, but how within this high quality criteria, thinking too, we have this really wonderful foundation. How do we think as schools are scaling, as more and more schools are offering these, how they continue to do that with a lens towards equity and continuous improvement. And so again, when we think about a continuum, we're really thinking about moving a learner from that career awareness, moving them to and through kind of more those intensive opportunities. So how do they keep reflecting? How do they keep having that really intentional industry engagement and mentorship as they move throughout these and start to understand what are they liking, what are they not liking, where do they need to continue to develop skills, where do they need more information, get connected with more people. And so you see that they really move from the managing organization or the school or community-based organization really being the main role at the beginning of career awareness as learners are taking surveys, watching videos, starting to reflect. But you really see that host or that employer taking on a bigger and bigger role as you move through the continuum, as a learner moves through more and more intensive work-based learning experiences. And you'll see pieces like that reflected in the criteria, where that industry, that employer role, and what those different roles look like throughout the continuum. And all these definitions are through the Illinois Career Pathways Dictionary. We have very much leaned on those, that foundation that we have in Illinois to say what is a career exploration experience, what is a team-based challenge experience. And so all the criteria are really aligned to and just building on those definitions. We don't want to create more definitions or any misalignment in this. And so finally, the piece we'll put here is there's a lot of really great kind of resources and foundational elements of work-based learning in Illinois. The Illinois State Board of Education has their work-based learning manual for career and technical education, very much something to be leaning on and have as a resource as you're building out your career and tech ed programs and work-based learning. We also have a career development experience toolkit. So really taking you to and through all those different component parts of offering, an internship type experience for young people. We are very much grounded when we think about work-based learning. Those should all be grounded in the development of both technical and essential employability competencies. So, if a learner decides that this pathway is not for them, those technical skills could be applied in another industry, but those essential employability competencies can definitely be applied because those are cross-cutting. So how we really do our work-based learning with a lens towards building those competencies and learners learning through work. And you'll see those components reflected in the criteria as well. And then, as I mentioned before, the Illinois Career Pathways Dictionary, a very interactive site here now for you to go in and look at those definitions. And again, really what we're grounding in. We want to take what Illinois has done and just build upon that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather. And that leads us right into the overview of the why for this resource that we've created and what we really have created for you today. So essentially this work, as Heather has kind of been teeing us up for, is that there has been a legislation passed that is leading to foster significant scaling in work-based learning programs, and that calls for enhanced support for supporting those programs. We're moving past implementation as these programs grow across the state and wanting to provide high quality criteria for people across the continuum as they move towards that advancement and refinement stage in program development. So what we've created for you here is a comprehensive resource that has high quality criteria across the work-based learning continuum, as well as a focus on systems and processes for being able to support those different continuum components, being able to support staff, being able to support students across the continuum, and also specifically having a lens towards equity and continuous improvement. And so I want to exit out of this slideshow very briefly to quickly show y'all like what it is that we're talking about. This resource will be shared with you, and I'll put it here in the chat. But essentially what we have here, beyond our introduction where we build out these frameworks that Heather has introduced, and you know, really talk about why we're doing this work, each section essentially provides high quality criteria, moving again beyond implementation, for program directors to engage with, for work-based learning coordinators, for community partners and employers to engage with. And they're separated into several different buckets. And so you'll see here that each continuum component has its high quality criteria alongside as well I can statements that Emily Wan has put together for us to really be able to identify what it is that a program lead or a district lead can do to support, you know, to support things at a system level, and also what students should be able to do at each component, for each of these buckets as well. And so you'll see here that this document provides not only the high quality criteria, and I pull this up just for you to start getting an image of what this looks like, but also, you know, alignment with state frameworks to better understand how this fits with the implementation and the requirements that are for each of these components. And then advisory highlights. I'm going to talk a little bit about our process for putting this together in a moment, but there was a lot of engagement with statewide stakeholders, and a lot of different perspectives were brought to the table to be able to better understand what people in different roles think is important for programs that are working beyond implementation and growing. And so we also have highlights here that are a culmination of those many different meetings, as well as you know, resources and equity considerations, again brought forth from Emily Wan. And so I'm going to pass it along to her very soon to talk about her role. But first, I want to highlight a little bit more about this advisory committee and the work of the statewide stakeholders and how this work was really brought together. So in October, we brought together statewide stakeholders that included work-based learning specialists, school administrators, employers, and other school partners, some of whom are here with you today that will be sharing about different component pieces. But essentially, the process involved us as an EdSystem team first compiling desk research on national and statewide best practices, bringing them for the advisory committee to engage with. They first provided asynchronous feedback for us on what to keep, add revisions to. And then we engaged in a consensus building process as a group to discuss the criteria and make revisions. And a part of this revision process was also engaging stakeholders at ISB and the CTE department to identify you know, high quality criteria as it best fits with from their perspective as well. And then doing a final review with our advisory committee and gathering resources and doing a final compilation of that work. And all of that has been put together to become the resource that we have shared with you today. I want to pass it along now to Emily Wan to talk a little bit more about her role in this work.
Thanks, Danya. So hi, everyone again. So as Danya said, I'm currently a high school senior, and really my biggest role in this advisory committee is to really highlight and empower the voices of students and to really bring in student input into the process of creating high quality work-based learning. So as someone who does have experience within work-based learning, you know, interning with EdSystems, and as someone who is familiar with different processes and systems that are incorporated within work-based learning, a lot of my work has been revolving around reviewing each criteria, understanding what we're trying to aim for, and really trying to focus on how we can improve high quality work-based learning experiences and make sure that each criteria is also applicational and relatable for students to understand. So for instance, one of the biggest things that I was able to work on was creating these I can statements that Danya just kind of went through. And so these statements all will be partnering and pairing off of each criteria under each bucket. And really the essential point of having these I can statements is to make sure that students are able to find their own voice and kind of see where they should fit in along the process of completing work-based learning to its highest criteria, and to make sure that we're also incorporating a level of expectations that students can frame off of, to use as a scaffold, and for other school districts to try and implement to make sure that we are having students complete successful work-based learning opportunities and to complete each criteria to its most equitable and diverse application. And so even going into that, when we kind of focus on diversity and equity and inclusivity for students who want to take work-based learning and to really find the greatest output from participating in such a program is to talk about kind of these student equity considerations. So as we kind of went through that drafted document, each student equity consideration is based off of student interviews that I was able to conduct, and my ability to kind of go around and talk to students from both my own school district who participate and from students who participate in work-based learning, all the way to students from neighboring communities and neighboring school districts, and really gauge that student input and see where students are feeling in terms of what each criteria is like under work-based learning. So under each equity consideration, you'll see the insights and voices of students that I was able to collect. And really that is how we're going to be incorporating student voices and bringing in our perspective on how to really improve work-based learning at its fullest under each high quality criteria. And so I'll kick it back off to Danya and the rest of us to kind of go through each of these criteria in more detail.
Thank you so much, Emily. And as Heather said in the chat, we're really grateful for the grounding in student voice and for particularly those insights that you brought on top of the I can statements for, those engaging with the document to really be able to see how students are perceiving this component of the continuum and what to be considerate of as we're engaging with the criteria as well. Moving forward onto the high quality criteria, I first want to recognize that there are a lot of criteria in this document, and instead of going through them each one by one, we have brought forth our advisory members to share about some highlights from the criteria for each continuum component, and to talk a little bit about their perspective, their role in this advisory committee, and to summarize some of the advisory considerations that were a part of this review process and important advisory highlights that we've put into the document. And so we'll start out with career awareness, and I'll kick it off to Krista Paul.
Okay, thank you so much, Danya. I am super excited to have been included in this process and to be here with all of you today. It's so exciting to see so many names and faces on this chat, whether we've communicated, through email or just with calls. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Taking a look at career awareness, right? So that very fundamental building block, I think, to any high quality work-based learning continuum, in that I believe truly at this step, it provides our students with that introductory opportunity to really kind of start to delve in and learn more about who they are, right? So it's kind of, who am I? And they're generally doing this, right, through completing some of those interest surveys, inventories, and again, really exploring those careers, start to explore some of those career clusters and also just specific jobs. And really in a lens of where they relate to their own abilities and interests, right? So again, hopefully the goal is they obtain this deeper understanding of all these opportunities available, again, whether it's a college route, career opportunities, and kind of how those all pertain into the existing job market. So as Danya mentioned, I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. So while there's so many components within the criteria today, I'm just going to highlight two. I would say the first one is really when we look at that kind of that component of alignment of coursework, right? So one of these essential components, I believe, is really when students, when they start to understand how their aptitudes, they align to career areas. And when students can also see how their academic preparation and their application within that space is able to apply career fields. So I know our school district traditionally, right, there's, career pathways, and as students go along, whether it's the orientation, developmental coursework up to capstone, just within those career pathways, our students, again, are finding opportunities for career awareness generally on that, kind of early end of it, within their high school experience. So again, that alignment to coursework, very key component. I would say the second one that I would highlight, again, is super important, is that student reflection component. And so in that category, one of the essential components here is, again, that students are engaging in ongoing self-reflection activities. Hopefully this is going to really tease out and bring to life more meaning. And, as a result, students can connect any knowledge, their interest, things that they're valuing, as they're further refining their skills throughout that career awareness process. We're then able to connect it with essential employability competencies and ultimately those authentic workplace experiences. So I feel like that reflection piece is just super, super, super important. Again, as students find out, a career awareness, they start to tease out what may be important to them or what's showing up on their career surveys and interest inventories. And then they may want to further, delve into through that career exploration portion. Something I would say the advisory committee kind of noted, again, is that industry, level engagement. And I think that looks like the kind of that proactive and intentional, component from industry. They're very actively engaged, maybe in that design of the career awareness activities. Some of these may include, again, supporting students with that career interest inventories or assessments. Maybe it looks like some of those very emerging type of experience, maybe like a Zoom or some type of, classroom guest speaker and connection there. So again, students are just starting to see, culinary field, maybe they're in their very first course within that pathway, but starting to see some of those connections where we might get an industry partner connect kind of through Zoom. Also, I would say, I think just the direct instruction and advisory groups, again, regarding career clusters. So again, I think industry is very heavily able to be actively involved, throughout this process and designing them. I think also too, something that was prioritized or just noted, their advisory committee is that, there's also local employers, organizations, people, these people are prioritized. And what you might notice within the career awareness space is that they are, maybe highlighted in some of the promotional materials and some of the education systems and things like that. Again, so students can start to make some of those connections and kind of tie the dots through all those modalities to, career and college, opportunities. So I think that's just kind of more of the highlight of kind of the career awareness field. I know it does teeter a lot on what Todd's going to talk more about in that career exploration phase. But again, it's just kind of an overall kind of highlight within career awareness.
Thank you so much, Krista. And you teed us up perfectly for Todd.
Thanks, Krista. As she was saying, as you move across that continuum from career awareness and students continue to take these courses, the next step is that career exploration, where they're able to work with the industry sector of their choice, of their career path, and gain valuable experience in that mode. Just like student voice, Emily was talking about the importance of student voice. We cannot underestimate or undervalue the importance of our industry sector voices. So being in education all my life, it's kind of like, okay, we know curriculum, we know instruction, but the industry sector knows what's really driving things out there. So it's having the time to spend time with our industry partners, listening to them, finding out what their needs are, and then looking at how our programs support those things and building a true partnership. That kind of goes to the first bullet point there. It doesn't happen randomly. So you're cultivating those relationships all the time, and success builds success. So if you're able to gain a high profile partner and have good internship opportunities with that partner, then other industries who also follow that company will typically join on board. And then the second bullet point, students gain meaningful real world experiences that directly relate to the curriculum and industry expectations. Good example is this summer we're going to have numerous students, both in pharmacy tech programs and medical rotation programs. Before we were working more closely with these hospitals students were really just working at like welcoming desks. Well, that's not really the career exploration that we want them to have. So now we have students that will be coming out at the end of summer. They'll be ready for their pharmacy tech license down the road, and they'll have experience in those medical rotations if they're going into nursing or some other medical field. And then finally, students leverage that knowledge and skills for their own personal reflection and for future opportunities. Good example would be we had welding students at Elgin Sweeper, and many of those students now have been hired on following graduation. So it's building those relationships, and from that community relationships, those advisory boards, working with your community partners, they build very strong exploration programs. This summer we'll have in our region, which we serve 4 school districts, we'll have over 170 paid 60-hour internships across the various sectors. So, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of cultivation to make that happen.
Absolutely. Thank you for those highlights and thoughtful points, Todd. I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Erica to walk us through team-based challenges.
Well, hello again. First and foremost, I would really like to say that just being a part of this work-based learning advisory committee was a wonderful experience. Everyone had excellent insight, and we just went into every single detail. Like, we had to decide if we're going to call somebody a work-based learning coordinator or work-based learning specialist, and coming together with everyone's different ideas and why it was important for them to use this word or not use this word it was just very interesting, and it just was a great kind of team to be a part of. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that. Team-based challenges are honestly one of my favorite parts of work-based learning and college and career pathway endorsements, because team-based challenges, you've already done your career exploration, you've done your career awareness first, and now you get to really work with an actual industry professional or an industry mentor, and the students get to show off the technical competencies that they've learned and the employability skills that they've learned. So students are able to come together in these small groups and use their voice. So 2 things that I highlighted were, when troubleshooting with students, the ideal mentor will ask probing questions to guide the student to think through the different scenarios. I had the wonderful opportunity to interview students from different high schools within our region and ask them what they liked about team-based challenges and what their favorite parts were. And one of the things that really stuck out was their interactions with the industry mentor. A lot of times people think an industry mentor, it's a team-based challenge, it has to be a competition, and it has to be the judge. But walking around and having that industry professional ask and probe these questions and start to kind of really build small little relationships with the students, especially for students that might be underserved and might not ever have had a chance to have a lawyer in the room and get to talk to them, or an engineer, maybe they don't know an engineer, and have that like one-on-one kind of conversation about something that they're passionate about. I think is a great thing. They love to have the feedback right then and there. They constantly would say that they wanted the feedback right then, so then they weren't going through their whole entire project and then having to fix it later. So that industry professional voice and mentor is just such a great opportunity for them to have. So I really wanted to throw that in there about the team-based challenge. It also is one of the main things that kind of separates problem-based learning from a team-based challenge, because you have that industry mentor professional. And then another highlight is students engage in an authentic problem solving through student voice and choice in the way they determine to address the problem. As Emily said earlier, student voice is just so important. Again, while interviewing students, they stressed how everyone in their small team used their abilities and their skills and what they're best at, even if it might be somebody who's normally shy or quiet in the class. When you're sitting with a small group of individuals who are all like-minded, people's personalities and skills really came out. So just hearing that, I think, is excellent too. I think that team-based challenges really allow students to build confidence in their career and get that exposure to industry mentors starting in high school. So I think they're excellent.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erica. And we had so many conversations as an advisory committee about like the different kinds of roles that these industry mentors can have and team-based challenges and the many different kinds of way that they can be involved. So we hope that you'll engage with those resources as well as you go through our document. Moving along here to career development experiences and passing along to Jennifer.
All righty, I am happy to be able to share information regarding career development experiences. Again, as a professional that works on the industry side of it, just to share the perspective, just to be a part of this advisory committee has been eye-opening and helped us to refine some of our processes. So when you think about those career development experiences, it's what gives the students the opportunity to really work side by side with the professional that's in the field, that's doing the work, so that they can get in there and learn and see what actually happens. Because the reality of it is, we know students don't know what they don't know. And quite frankly, as professionals, we benefit because we don't know what we don't know. So we're putting the two of us together, and that's that teamwork and that synergy that occurs when the students are actually getting those opportunities for those career development experiences. So I pulled out just a few bullets. I mean, I'm telling you, this document, when you get a chance to really go through it and see the value of it in terms of the tools that are there, the examples that are there. I think about the first bullet, opportunities to align the post-secondary education and career goals of the student. When you're talking about students that want to come out and they spent all this time learning about these opportunities and learning about the career pathway that they want to pursue, when they get out to that developmental experience, as an employer, what we strive to do within BJC is make sure that they're able to see even more than they thought the career could be. For example, students come out and they may have decided to pursue a career in nursing, where there are so many different ways a nurse can do nursing. So trying to do as much exposure as we can, but knowing the importance of when you're designing these developmental experiences, you have to have a plan in place. And so when you get into the toolkit, you'll see some sample MOUs, some sample how to get it started, wherever you are in the process, there's tools that will keep you on point or help you to better build out the experience. Students understand the value of the career development experience as it relates to their college and career planning. And I think that that is so vital because there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to that successful career. For some students, that may show up as them wanting to go to college. Others may want to work. We really, within our organization and a lot of organizations, we offer tuition reimbursement. So a student on a career development experience that want to work for our organization and grow their careers, then when you think about those components, being able to show the students how the career ladder works, how they can move up the career ladder and building on what they've learned while they were in their programs. And I think for me, when I look at that whole component of career development experiences, I love how it all ties together with that mentorship, the engagement and the assessment, all of those important components that are spread throughout the toolkit that will be proved to be very, very beneficial. So I know I ran through that because we have other presenters, but I would definitely encourage you, take a look, and I'm sure you will find that the time, I know for me, the time invested was well worth it, and I am looking forward to all schools having success with using this toolkit.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And certainly not least, but last, we have Dorletta Payne bringing up systems and processes, which we understand is not a component of the work-based learning continuum, but we can have Dorletta touch a little bit more about why this component is important. And I'll talk a little bit more about the process to getting here at the very end.
For our district, this is really timely. We have just formed a work-based learning committee, actually composed of people in different roles at our two high schools and the district. And as we have been going through and actually are piloting in each of our high schools, one of the CT classes, piloting actually a work-based learning class, going through and looking at these criteria really helped with what are the important points that we should be looking at. And we really started looking overall. And systems and processes, it's clear that if we do not define and really work through these different processes and have everything work together in our system, that we won't be able, number one, for our students to achieve the outcomes that they want, and then for us as a district as well. And so I would say, in order to obtain that system-wide support, in order to be able, not only in our school system, but in our community, working with partners, we just heard from a partner that it is really important to do this work in an intentional way and to take into consideration, number one, of course, the student equity, but also the staff. This work can be very challenging. There is a lot involved in this work. And what we don't want to happen is for our staff members to become overwhelmed with the work and to feel that they are doing this on their own. So having said all that, two of the criteria that we came up with was having a personalized and coordinated work-based learning experience for our student, because this is really a learning opportunity. Our students are going to be learning through work, and then they will have the ability to demonstrate things that they're learning in a classroom, those academic skills, those technical skills, and then those essential employability skills. And those are really important. We know that when we look at research, many employers say that our college graduate students that come to them for work are not ready. Over 60% of college graduates think that they're ready for the workforce, but only about 29% of employers say that they are really ready. And so having these experience in order to learn skills and also cement what they want as a career, help students as they go along this continuum and ultimately go on to post-secondary education. And that leads to number two. There is a collaboration between secondary, post-secondary educators and community partners in really designing these opportunities together, adopting the continuum of work-based learning, and to make sure that we get high quality experience. And so when I thought about this overall, I said, one of the key things is communication. Communicating what the needs are, as a staff member, communicating to leadership what those needs are, working with leadership to communicate to all staff of what work-based learning is about. Make sure that leadership, district leadership understands this and is able to speak to it when they're out there in the community. Because the reality is they're going to be interacting with people, with companies, representatives of organizations that are going to be able to help provide these opportunities. So it's really important that everyone is aware, and that happens through communication. The work-based learning experience is important also for us as educators because we've heard about the college and career pathways endorsements. We've heard about post-secondary and career expectations. We have heard about college and career readiness indicators, and these experience actually tie into all of those. So I guess I'll say in kind of closing is we want to make sure that the awareness is up, students know what is involved, students know what to expect, the same for our employers so that they have a good experience. And if that happens, that's going to open up future opportunities for students and for our future students, because the employers will know that now they're going to have a pipeline of people that are being prepared to come into the workforce. So I'll end with that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dorletta. And something that y'all will see reflected through this document and that I want to make also very clear now is that this document is long, and I understand that everybody in this room engages with different components of of work-based learning. You might be focused on career awareness, you might be focused on team-based challenges, but something that we really want to push throughout is that, the systems and processes should always be improving to be able to alleviate the pressure on those that are the practitioners that are putting forth these experiences. And so something that we note in the document, and that I'd like to clear now too through Dorletta's words, and is that always, if you can, pass this along to, if you're a practitioner and you work with those who work in the systems and processes, if you could pass this along to them to also engage in this work, if you could, if you are engaging with things at a system level, if you're able to think about some of these processes that you can put into place to alleviate the stress that gets put on staff to put forth, really high quality experiences. The goal of these high quality criteria that you see in the resource and the resources that we share as well is to be able to alleviate that load throughout the system and alleviate the load of each person engaging with each part of the continuum as well. And so that's one of those really big equity points that we always try to be considerate of, is that every single school has their own circumstances. Every single school has different resources. Not every school has a work-based learning coordinator. Not every school has dedicated staff to this. And so there are points that we make that there should be a point of contact for this component, and there should be somebody that's taking care of this component XYZ. But we're also in recognition that that's not always possible for every single school, that everybody has their own, every single school community has different needs. And so we hope that you go forth and engage with this document as your community needs, with your own communities, resource capacity in mind, and also acknowledge that there are systems and processes that can be put into place to hopefully alleviate that pressure and hopefully move us all towards, more high quality experiences and better spread of work across folks that are involved in this. And so with that being said, I want to move forward to talk a little bit about our public comment process. Again, as I said, there's folks that are engaging with just different parts of the continuum. And so public comment, the good thing about it is that if you only engage with a certain part of it and only want to engage with a certain part of this document, you can also only give feedback on that certain part of the document. Essentially, our public comment process allows you to tell us which parts of the document that you engaged with. And we ask for you to just give us feedback about what it is that you liked, whether or not there are, specific edits that you would like us to make to criteria or specific considerations that we should take into mind. We also have a specific ask for resources. Something that I wanted to mention as a thank you to our wonderful advisory members is that a lot of the resources that have been put forth are from them, gathering from their communities. Really, their voices have been so important in this process, and we hope that you see that reflected throughout the document, and that this is really work from several different people across the state, from different communities with different roles, that were able to bring their perspectives forth and be culminated into what we have forth today. And so I hope that that's something that you see reflected, that you feel like there's a cohesive view of these different continuum components as you engage. And so I'll share this public comment document or link in the chat. And I'll also share, we have a student survey to send out as well, that Emily, if you're still on the call, if you'd like to share what the student survey is for. She might have had to go back to school. Emily was joining us from mid-school day, which really.
Yes. She had to hop out at 12. Her teacher preferred she was there at 12:45. She's like, is it okay to leave or I will stay? But I told her, go ahead.
No, all perfect. Okay, so I'll briefly go over what we're looking for the student survey first, and then I'll give some more thoughts about public comment. But for the student survey, Emily, as she mentioned earlier, has put together these wonderful I can statements that talk about what students should be able to be like, what they should be able to do at each level of the continuum. And so the student survey should be, if you have students that are really involved in CTE and you think that they would be good at reviewing these I can statements and understanding the different components of career and technical education, specifically work-based learning. Essentially, that student survey just, has a run through of those I can statements and makes sure that from the student perspective that they're understandable and that they're applicable to the students you engage with as well. And so that would be really wonderful if you had students that were interested and would want to engage in that. And then just kind of highlight a little bit more about what we're looking for through this public comment survey. Essentially, as I mentioned, there's different components you can engage with, but we'd also love to hear from you, from your different perspectives based on the type of role that you have and the kind of organization that you work in. So if you are a district level leader, we'd love for you to reflect on your role and maybe creating effective structures that foster successful work-based learning. And how that relates to the different continuum components. If you're a work-based learning coordinator or educator, we'd love for you to reflect on successful strategies for planning and executing fruitful work-based learning experience for your students, and whether or not the best practices that we're putting forth align with what what you see as your best practices, or that you could imagine them in an ideal scenario. And then if you're a community partner or employer, we'd love for you to engage with this through the lens of that work and, consider what it is that you need from schools to be able to best engage with students in an effective way, as well as what you can do from your end to make sure that these experiences are beneficial for students. So however you can engage with this, for whatever components you can engage with, we'd love to hear your perspective. We're taking responses through May 31st, and we will then go through another round of edits with our advisory to ensure that this document is ready to be put forth into the world. And then specifically, we're also still looking for resources. You'll note that in our document, we've separated resources based on continuum components, and there are still some criteria that we're looking for resources to support. And so if you have community models, if you have resources you'd like to share with us, there's also a space for that in the public comment survey. And then last but not least, I also wanted to note that there is also in the survey a spot to note what kind of professional development experiences and opportunities would be beneficial for you to best engage with these criteria, or to be better able to provide high quality work-based learning experiences for your communities. And so in that note, I wanted to also highlight some existing professional development opportunities through one of our partners, Career Connected Illinois. They provide several opportunities that I can share this link to. And as you engage with the high quality criteria and also think through what kinds of professional development would be useful for you to be better able to provide high quality experiences, I hope you also engage with these existing professional development opportunities and see if they may be able to benefit. With that being said, that's all I have on my end, and we have these last several minutes open for reflections, any comments from the crowd, any, additional comments made from our team. So I'll leave this space open and I'll stop sharing. And as Sarah mentioned in the chat, we have a blog up about this process for developing the criteria. I want to just note again how grateful we are for our advisory. They did a lot of work. There was a lot of criteria to engage with. There were a lot of rounds of edits, and we walked through that full process there. And so we hope that you look at it and both, appreciate the work put forward, and also are incredibly grateful to our advisory through reading it, because they certainly did a lot of work, and it's their voices that helped us get to the document that we have now, the finalized criteria, the advisory highlights, the student considerations from Emily, and the resources that we've put forth. So it has been a massive collaborative effort, and we are extremely grateful for those that give us their time. And we have a few, on the screen today, but there are several more people that are not on screen today that were a big part of this work, and are very grateful to them as well.
After reflecting from our first committee meeting on work-based learning and just the breadth and depth of how much is involved with it, we had an incredibly positive response from committee members that included teachers from English, science, special ed, PE, in addition to other more typical folks like a school counselor, et cetera, that you would expect to have involved with this work. And what we're excited about is, number one, of course, their enthusiasm and willingness to participate, but we see them as ambassadors in their buildings in spreading the word about work-based learning, in being able to really talk to their students and their peers about the opportunity for work-based learning that they will have, and the importance of, as we talked about, this high quality criteria. So we were really enthralled, I'll have to say, with their response and their excitement to do this work. So I would encourage, in order for, as Dania was saying earlier, this not to fall on one or just a few, to really look at others that can be involved in the work in order to spread it so that it's not overwhelming for just one person. And the more people that know about this, the more opportunities that will come for our students in those different opportunities along the work-based learning continuum. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Darletta. It really was, it was a sign that we were moving in the right direction to get the practitioners on board and understand from their perspective whether or not what we were putting forth was useful and doable. And so I really appreciate that comment.
And I know we mentioned this earlier too, but wanted to give another thank you to Gina Fulton from the Illinois State Board of Education, who couldn't be here today, and also Marcy Johnson from ISB, and Bill Rose with Career Connected Illinois. It was really a big, piece of the advisory and a piece of our work, that we're not doing something that feels like an additional thing, not aligned to things that we're already doing. So I appreciate, in between meetings, like Dania mentioned, we met with Gina and Marcy and Bill and just had those policy alignment conversations. So what you see in the document is a condensed version of all the details of that policy. But for those of you who have been in this space within PACE and the College and Career Pathway endorsement, right, you're going to see that within there. And so again, we welcome though in public comment if you're like, wait, I'm starting to feel confused, right? We don't want to cause confusion. We only want to help enhance the work that's already happening in Illinois. So just thank you again to ISB and to Career Connected, you all for really being a part of this process and being at all the advisory committee meetings too. Just thank you for all that. And the advisory, it's such a happy day. I'm all smiles today. It's a great way to start a Monday. And I see the question from Lori about it's done at a regional as opposed to a district and a rural with small schools. Our hope, right, is that you can see yourselves in these criteria, kind of like regardless of the size or where you are. And so, again, Lori, very much welcome if you're looking at some of these pieces and you're feeling like, I'm not sure if that would quite apply to me or if there could be some adjustments there. Would love that feedback. But the goal is that you could take these at a big regional or at a district or at a one small rural school, right? That's where we, to the point before about capacity, right? Making sure that we're not expecting too much within this criteria, but helping you start to build on the work that you're doing. I don't know if others have to add to that.
I would like to add to it. Actually, at our work-based learning committee meeting, we did have other districts and schools from our region there as well. And also our area career center, Wilco, they were represented there as well, because we do want to address this as a region for a number of reasons. Number one, why recreate the wheel if we can work together and create processes, documents, et cetera, that will work for everyone. And then number two, how we are located geographically. Ultimately, we're going to be approaching some of the same companies. And instead of having these companies approached 5, 6, 7 times from different districts, we decided that as a region, we wanted to coordinate our efforts as well. So I just wanted to encourage Lori to say, yes, I really think that is a great way to do it as a region. Whether you are rural or not, I think that there are benefits to it.
Well, I'll note that we'll be sure to share out all of these links that this has been recorded and will be shared out as well. And that we really encourage you to, engage with the public comment, but also engage people in your community with it. If you can send it to other folks that you know are engaged in this work, if you can send the student survey to your involved students that, that would like to engage with this. And we'll be sure to be in contact and share everything needed for this public comment process. But we really appreciate all of you for being here, for giving us your time, and for giving us your thoughtfulness. We, again, want to appreciate our advisory, who are just wonderful. And as you see in front of you, just have incredible perspectives. And we've really enjoyed getting to work with them. And we look forward to hearing from all of you in the coming weeks. Thank you all so much.